Hello and welcome all. This is Russ again, and I wanted to give you another update about the class designs that I'm working on. If you're receiving this, it's because you're listed in D2L as a member of the classes that I'm teaching this semester, 120 or 346. So, what do we know about what's coming in the class? Well, as I'm sure you've heard, the university is opening up on the 24th. But it's going to be part of a three-stage opening. So on the 24th, they're going to open up the very first and the most critical classes. So things like labs in the physics department or the chemistry department, dance and music classes, things like that. Things that have to be in person in order for them to function marginally at all. Then there's going to be a stage 2. Which is, we don't know when. It's, at one point, the president was saying that this would be just 1 week later. That would be August 31st. That doesn't look like that's likely to be how it actually plays out right now, but this is a very dynamic situation. We're not sure when this is going to happen, but at some point there will be things that will be opening up, and these will be the small classes. Now this does not include anything that I'm teaching. Basically it means that if based on enrollment, if everybody showed up, if there were more than 30 people in the class, then that would be too large. And so for both my classes, that's going to be true. Even though we have our flex rotation where some people are going to be on one day and some people are going to be on another, we're still more than 30. So we're not going to be open at this point. Then there's going to be stage 3. Which, of course, we don't know when that's going to happen either. But stage 3 is going to be all classes. And so all classes, at least the ones that are scheduled to be in person in some form, will eventually be meeting in the lecture halls. Now, as you know, both of the classes I'm teaching are the flex in-person modality. And what that means is that we are going to have a rotation. So I'll take the whole class and I'll divide it up. In 120, I'm going to divide it into quarters. This pen is starting to get old. Switch it out. In 120, I'll be dividing it into quarters. In 346, I'll be dividing it in half because we only have 2 meetings per week. And so you'll be meeting on a given day. You'll be assigned to day 1 or 2. Or if you're in 120, you might be assigned to day 3 or 4. Now, are you going to be required to come? No. I said this before and I want to make sure I reiterate it here. I am never going to require you to attend on any given day. So if you're in Phoenix, you want to stay in Phoenix, that's fine. If you're in Tucson and you want to stay in your house in Tucson, that is an acceptable thing you can do. If you want to be on the other side of the world, that's acceptable. You're never going to be required to attend class. But how are you going to be accessing things if you're not going to be here in person? And of course, all of what I'm telling you here is dependent on our assumption that once we're actually in person. So here's what the teaching model is going to look like basically. In the room, there will be me standing up here with a big beard, and I'll be talking. And there will be some number of students who are also here who can show up. Now, don't show up unless it's your assigned day to come. However, when it's your assigned day, you are welcome to come. Now, as I said, if you're uncomfortable with being here, then there is no expectation at all. I need to walk a very careful line here, and so I'm going to say something that I'm going to try to say precise, but I want to make sure that you understand what I'm saying. I think that if your situation allows it, I think that if your comfortability allows it, you know, all the myriad events. I think that if you show up in person when you can, I think that helps your learning process. I'm a big believer that for most people, and I don't mean most other people, I mean most of you, you learn better in person than you do watching a video online. So, if there's no issue that you have, I would encourage you to come. But I'm putting zero pressure on you, right? I'm not making a requirement that you come. And I'm very, very definitely, I'm not trying to lean on anybody in the slightest. If you feel uncomfortable for whatever reason, you are 100% free to not come. I'm totally cool with that. But if you feel comfortable, then you're welcome to come. Now, everybody who comes needs to wear a mask. I'm told that faculty members will be getting special masks of some sort. I always have my mask that I wear. I use these little disposable ones, but I will be wearing a mask, and so will every single student who comes in. And of course, this drawing is not quite correct either, because we're going to have social distancing. So we're going to have distance between all the people, which means, of course, that we're not going to be able to fit a whole lot of people into the room at any given time. It also means it's going to be really difficult to do active learning, at least to do anything that involves support. So we've struggled with this because one of the high values of this department is that we really think that active learning activities are really, really helpful. And by active learning activities, what we mean is we ask you to go do something in the middle of a lecture. And students always just kind of like roll their eyes and like, why am I doing this? But the reality is that if we don't do active learning, what happens is that information that enters your head tends to enter your head and kind of bounce off. If we were still in the days when Apollo was going, you'd understand what it means to bounce off the atmosphere when you're trying to do re-entry. And so much information is like that. It enters your head and it doesn't really land anywhere, it just flies away. By doing active learning, it really cements information into your brain. Even things that you thought that you understood beforehand, you're going to understand better if you have to work with them in class. So I'm going to continue to do active learning activities, but we're not going to be doing them in groups. And I'm not going to be able to get TAs to help you. Not in a direct fashion, right? Because I'm not going to have a TA walk up and violate social distancing. And so what that does mean is that we're going to be working on online help. And I'm still figuring out the details here, but what I'm zeroing in on is basically probably that you'll be doing your active learning in a online document, and that you can raise your hand or you can ask for help of your TA, and your TA can then jump over to their copy of the online document and help you out with what you're working on, that sort of a thing. That way we can have, as best as we can, personal interaction between people without having physical proximity, which puts everybody at risk. All right, so while this is all going on, this is all inside the room. There's also going to be a camera here. Looks like it's outside the room, but I apologize for my little... I know that looks like a loudspeaker, but it also looks like a camera, kind of. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be broadcasting this almost certainly through a Zoom meeting, meaning that now there can be additional students who are scattered throughout the world, and they're all sitting at their computers. Let's see if I can draw a laptop. Oh, look at that. You are now seeing the limits of my drawing capability. And so everybody here is going to be, I'm sorry, sounds like I'm about to put a requirement here. There will be some amount of students who are logged on remotely. Again, my recommendation is that a synchronous experience of the class is more engaging. It's a better learning experience than it is watching a recording. So if you cannot be here, either because it's not your day to be there, or because, frankly, you can't ever be in class, that's fine. My recommendation would be that you log on to the Zoom meeting and then you participate. And the cool thing is that because we're going to have the TAs out here, we'll have a TA with their own computer. The TA is going to be logged into the Zoom meeting as well. That now they can look at your shared document. We have some active learning thing, and they can help you the same way that they're helping students in class. They can help you as well. All right, so what I've got here is I've now got two different ways you can participate in the class. You can be in person, which I'm placing zero pressure on anybody to come, but if your situation allows it, I think you'll learn better there. Second option is that we're going to do a synchronous broadcast of the class over something, probably Zoom. The cool thing is that allows you to talk with the TAs and get help from them immediately, and so on. In addition, one of the things that the department set as a high priority for this semester is that they want all students to have access, even if your practical limitations might put you on the other side of the world. So there is a third method as well, which is that there will be recordings, most likely posted through Panopto. And what that will simply be is it will be the recording of the lecture. And you'll be able to watch that asynchronously. So if at the point where I'm giving this class, it doesn't match up with your schedule for whatever reason, you have the option that instead of attending live, you can watch it later on. I told you in my earlier video to expect that there would be some sort of an enforcement mechanism to do that. The department has asked that I not do that this semester. So I'm not actually going to I'm not going to collect any information about who was involved. Whether you show up or you watch it synchronously or if you watch the lecture later on, I'm not going to keep track of whether you do. So it's entirely going to be up to you. This is one of the things, I often do this with my kids. My kids are, one's a teenager and one's just about to become one. Is that I say, okay, here's my counsel. Here's what wisdom would look like in your situation. But I don't want to control you. I don't want to be demanding. I don't want to be the tyrannical father who imposes my will on you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you choices. But I will tell you that I think this choice will lead to happiness and this choice will lead to sadness. And then I back off and I let them make their choice. And I don't go and I guilt trip them later on. It's just, okay, you made your choice. So whatever it is, we're going to run with it. Same thing here with lecture. You're welcome to make whatever choice you make. And I know, because it's tempting for me. It's going to be really, really tempting to just say, well, I'll skip it today. I know I skipped it yesterday and I skipped it the day before and I'm probably going to skip it tomorrow, but today's a special day where it's really important. I'm going to skip it today. And I'll just watch the lecture video later. And then you don't get around to watching the lecture video and then you're feeling all stressed out because the due date is approaching on the homework project and you're like, I haven't got a clue how to do this thing. And you post frantically on Piazza, and I say, oh, we talked about this week, we talked about exactly that thing recently in lecture, didn't we? So, you want to succeed in this class. I really, really urge you to do maximum engagement that's possible. Okay? Come in person if that works for you. If it's physically not a good idea or whatever reason, if there's some reason you don't want to be there in person, that's fine. Be here and be awake and be engaged and really paying attention every single day. And if you just can't do that, then at least watch the lecture recording later on. Pay attention, take notes as you go all the way through. So that's the plan here. Now, do you have to tell me what your plan is? No, you don't. I'm not taking attendance. I'm not checking to see who's going to be here or not. So you are completely free to do as you wish. Can you change your plan in the middle of the semester? Absolutely. If you get sick, you're welcome to change what your modality is. If you're in the middle of the semester and something changes with your home situation or whatever, that's fine. If at the beginning of the semester you know you want to be online the whole time, you don't have to tell me about it. That's fine. You're welcome to do it as you wish. No notification required. Now, of course, the question is, this all assumes that we're going to have in-person lecture, that I'm going to be standing up inside the room and lecturing there. What are we going to do before our classes actually open? Well, before classes actually open, basically, everything is going to be the same, except that there won't be any students who are physically in contact with me. Where will this be? I don't know. Maybe I'll be actually over in my lecture hall. Maybe I'll be here in the studio where I'm recording this video right now. Maybe I'll be working from home. But otherwise, it's going to be the same basic thing. We're going to have a synchronous lecture. I'm going to encourage you to join online if you can't be in person. And we'll record it and we'll post it online later for anybody who missed it or for anybody who wants to watch it a second time. Sometimes, particularly when they're studying for an exam, students tell me that they go back and they watch my Panopto lectures from earlier in the semester and they find it helpful. All right, so that's the basic structure of the class. Now, what else do you need to know? Well, of course, we need to deal with office hours. And office hours were really, really difficult last semester. We were really struggling to make that work in a good environment where students felt like they were getting prompt attention. We're going to work hard on changing that. Now, I don't know what university policy is going to be, but I will say for this class, there will be no in-person office hours at all. I won't be offering them, and I will be instructing my TAs not to offer them as well. Because I don't think you can do office hours in a way that maintains social distancing. I mean, if you set up an appointment schedule where everybody had a 10-minute time slot and you're going to be 6 feet over there while I'm sitting here writing on the whiteboard, but how am I going to look at your code? That's just difficult to the point of not being worth doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to be doing office hours entirely online, but we are looking at better systems to manage that. Now I'm not making a policy statement, I haven't decided on the exact mechanism, but what we're talking about most likely is probably a Discord server. I haven't used Discord, I know that sounds strange, but I've got other systems that work for me, but my TAs love Discord, and they say it's really easy to set up private rooms. And so generally the idea here is that there will be a office hours room that everybody will just kind of pile in, and you'll be able to see how many people there are, and you'll be able to put yourself in line. We've got to figure out exactly how we're going to document, the list of pending people asking for help. But the TAs will be there, and just like they did in person, where they would come and they would, say, okay, the next person in line, person X, okay, I'm going to go over, I'm going to talk to person X for a certain amount of time. Then I will go have a private chat with somebody else. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to use the Discord Discord server to manage all of that. Probably with private rooms, so the TA can say, okay, person X, it's your turn. Let's go together into this room over here so we can talk privately. You can do a screen share, that sort of a thing. In order to make this work, do plan on having a laptop, okay? You need some sort of a system for when you're in class, when you're participating in the Zoom lectures, and also when you're doing office hours. You need some sort of a system that you can actually type on, right? If we're going to use Google Docs or whatever, you need something you can type on. Or if we set up a Discord server, you want the computer that you're writing your code on to be the same one that you can use for Discord, so that you can screen share and show the TAs what your code is so that they can help you debug it. If you've got somebody who's sitting there and trying to connect to the conference call using a cell phone, it's not going to work very well. I won't have any way of knowing what device you have, so this isn't a requirement I can enforce, but it is something that's just kind of like, if we want to be sensible, this is a good plan for how we're going to interact with the system. It will become a requirement that we can enforce a little bit later, because it turns out that Examity is available in the fall. We did not think that that was going to be the case, but it turns out that Examity has been able to scale up enough. Now, some of you know Examity already. I know that there are some people who think that Examity is terrible. And I understand that, but it's the best option I have. What Examity is Examity is a way of doing online proctoring. So when we come to our exams, and for each class, we're going to expect that there will be 3 exams, 2 midterms and a final. When it comes time for an exam, it'll be a 1-hour exam. The final will be 2 hours, but generally it's a 1-hour exam. I'll give you a 48-hour window where you can choose any appointment you want within that window. If you're way over on the other side of the world, you can choose an appointment that fits your time zone, and Examity will have proctors available who can work with you. Basically what happens is when your appointment time comes, you will connect with Examity. The proctor who is there will check basic things about, they'll require you to screen share. They'll also require that you kick off a webcam. So if you don't have a webcam, if your laptop doesn't have a built-in webcam or something along those lines, you need to get a webcam so that we can do the exams. Because what they're going to do is that the proctor is going to see you, and the proctor is also going to see your screen in front. And when everything's set up and they've authenticated that you're the right person, then they're going to share the exam document with you, and you will sit there, you'll work on the exam. For most students, what they do is they work on it right there on scratch paper on the desk in front of them. And then you're going to upload the images. You're going to take pictures with your phone or whatever and upload those as your way of turning in your exam. So in order to make Examity work, you need a stable enough internet connection. You need a webcam, including a microphone, and you need some sort of a place where you'll be able to work in private. But of course, that shouldn't be a remarkable requirement, since if you're taking an exam, you're going to want to work in private as well. Now, I know one of the things students don't like is that they don't like that they have to put whatever room they're in on a webcam. And I totally understand that. I have great sympathy for you about that. But it is kind of just, I don't know how to proctor an exam other than that, other than having somebody who can see what's actually going on. So you've got several weeks, because the exams are, I forget when. I'll have to look up in the schedule. They're not right in the beginning of the semester. It's somewhere between week 5 and week 7, something like that. So you've got some time to plan ahead where you're going to be so that you can have a room that's private, that doesn't have, something terribly embarrassing behind you that you don't want to share with the proctor. So that's something I'm just giving you advance warning about. Also, about webcams. I had a long discussion with my summer students. I'm teaching 252 over the summer about webcams and the pluses and minuses of it. And there was a really interesting takeaway that I got from the webcam, from that whole discussion, where what my students told me was everybody feels self-conscious having a webcam pointed at them. Nobody likes to put themselves on display. But if you're in an environment where there's lots of webcams running, it actually builds a feeling of camaraderie, a feeling of like being there in a much more pointed and engaging way than just watching a video where people can't see what you're doing. And so the general conclusion that we reached was that having a webcam on me was, and I'm not talking about me as Russ, I'm talking about me as some arbitrary student, that's uncomfortable for that one student. But that the group dynamics of having lots of webcams running at the same time was really positive for everybody. This is a question that's a lot like speed limits, right? I'm driving down Speedway. I would much rather not have to slow down, and go 35 miles an hour. I'd much rather not have to stop at stoplights. I just want to floor it and go straight as fast as I can. And that's what would be good for me personally. But if I'm in a society where everyone does that, then we have tons of accidents. And it's very dangerous for everybody. So everybody accepts the existence of speed limits and traffic lights as the price we pay. That it's a little bit uncomfortable for us, it's a little bit annoying for us, but it's the price that we pay for a healthy society where we can have a relatively safe traffic flow on the road. I think webcams are going to be the same way. So, no requirement whatsoever, okay? If there's now you do have a requirement of turning on your webcam for your exam. That's how Examity works. But for ordinary class days, no requirement at all. But I sure hope that lots of you will contribute to the general good of the class by contributing to that. And I think that if it's not just one person, one student, if it's the instructor and the student, that's going to feel really weird. But if it's the instructor and it's 50 students, all with their webcams running, then any individual person doesn't feel singled out very much. So hopefully my TAs will be having their webcams on most of the time. Can't strictly require that of them, but I'm going to encourage it for them. And hopefully having the TAs with their webcams on will make it easier for everybody else to do that. Let's see, what else do you need to know? Well, there's 100 things that each class needs to know individually, but I think that's a pretty good summary of the basic mechanics of how the class is going to work. All right, so after I recorded the video, I remembered that there was one more thing to say, and so I've chopped it in here, right here into the middle of the video. When we talk about the schedule, we're opening up starting August 24th. Stage 2 and Stage 3 are coming at unknown points in the future. There's something important to remember. Starting at Thanksgiving, we are back to 100% online. I think that even the lab courses will be online, although I don't have a lab course, so I don't have to know. There was a decision that was made by the university. It makes a lot of sense to me that after everybody's flown across the world, or maybe just across the state or across the city, to go meet with their family for Thanksgiving, there's going to be a lot of cross-pollination and chances for infection, and it's not worth the risk to come back for a week and a half plus finals with all of these people now cross-infecting everybody. And so Our last day of in-person classes will be the week before Thanksgiving, at which point we'll be 100% online after that. But we'll already be used to that because we will have been 100% online at the beginning of the course as well for some amount of time. So I just wanted to remember that, and now I'll send you back to myself from 3 minutes ago, right now. This video was a lot longer than I intended, but I hope it had a lot of good information. I hope you're looking forward to the class, just like I am, and I'm looking forward to seeing you virtually on August 24th. Bye-bye.